My Smith & Wesson M&P 2.0 finally has the optic that it deserves. This is the Holosun EPS, and it's direct mounted to the slide because I originally had it cut for a 507K, and so it fits that perfectly. Welcome back to Sawtooth Tactical. I've got a video that I'm very excited about today, and that is because it's kind of been a long time coming. In fact, I somehow could see into the future, and I'm going to explain that in a minute. But what it is the Holosun EPS. Now this is one of their newer offerings. This is, EPS stands for enclosed pistol sight. And so it is an enclosed emitter optic. And I've wanted this optic specifically for this gun, my M&P 2.0 full size, specifically for a long time, and I'm going to explain why. But this optic is really sweet. You guys know I love Holosun optics. I've got a lot of them. I've got them on most of my pistols. This is my favorite one yet, and I'm going to tell you why. So make sure you're subscribed, and let's begin. The Holosun EPS, or enclosed pistol sight, has a back window on it, so the emitter is enclosed, so nothing can block it. That is a big deal. But a lot of enclosed optics look like you're looking through a tiny little tube. This one does not. It has a great big window. Feels just like shooting an open emitter optic, but it's closed. So really quickly, before we get into the features and the performance of the Holosun EPS, I'm going to explain why it's been a long time coming and why I think that I can see into the future subliminally, maybe. So this was the very first pistol that I ever put an optic on. This Smith & Wesson M&P 2.0 did not come optic ready. And at the time, I didn't have any pistols that were cut for an optic. And so you might remember the build series I did on this. I put the Apex flat face trigger in it, which is the best striker fired trigger that I've ever experienced. If you have a Smith & Wesson M&P 2.0, put the Apex trigger in it. It makes all the difference in the world. But I also, added the Streamlight TLR-1 HL, and I sent my slide off to get cut for an optic. At the time, I didn't know how much I was going to love pistol-mounted optics, and I wasn't making as much money back then as I do now, and so I wanted to get the most affordable, decent optic I could, and so what I got was this, the Holosun 407K. And so I had my full-size gun cut for a K footprint optic. Now there were reasons for that. For one, the K footprint is a pretty low deck height optic, and so I could still co-witness my standard iron sights and wouldn't have to spend more money putting suppressor height sights on the gun. And also, I wouldn't have to move my rear sight dovetail, because if I'd done an RMR cut, it would have been back here, and I would have had to put a rear sight dovetail, like a Glock dovetail, either right behind it on the very end of the gun or in front of it. And so there were reasons for going with the K footprint. But as I got more and more into pistol-mounted optics, I realized that the 407K was not an ideal optic for a full-size gun, that the 407K specifically was made for, a slimline concealed carry gun, and that is why it is now on my P365 XL, because that's what it was designed for. Range day with the Holosun EPS, and so far I'm very impressed. Now the funny thing about that is this. The Holosun EPS didn't exist at that time. And then it was released. And I looked into it heavily because it fit the K footprint, but it's a full-size optic. Now they have two models. They actually have a bunch of models, but two sizes. They have the EPS full-size, which is this one, and the EPS carry, which is made for guns like the P365. But they both fit the K footprint. Now they sell the full-size EPS with an adapter plate to fit the RMR footprint because that's what most full-size guns use. The great thing here is that I had my full-size gun cut for a K footprint, and so I've got a direct mount with the full-size EPS on a full-size gun. I could still co-witness my irons through it because it has very low deck height, and so I get to enjoy all the benefits of the design of the EPS without having to use an extra plate to mount it on, which would make it higher, give you an extra failure point, all of that. And so somehow, even though I originally maybe cut this for the wrong optic, it worked out for exactly the right optic. The Holosun EPS, in my opinion, is how all enclosed emitter pistol optics should be designed. And the reason for that is a lot of them are like this. You know, you've got things like the Aimpoint Acro P2, which is not what this is. This is the Sealy Bear. This was sent to me to review, but it's a very similar style where it's this big mailbox that sits on your slide, which to me just looks ridiculous. It's huge, and it feels like you're just looking through this like little square tube. Nothing against the Aimpoint Acro or even the Sealy Bear. I think that they are, you know, robust optics and they do the job, and a lot of people love them. I just think they look absolutely ridiculous, and I've shot them side by side, and I really liked the open emitter better because I just had a better field of view and a bigger window. Well, the Holosun EPS, looking through it looks just like looking through a big open emitter optic. You've got a nice big window, nice and clear. You don't look like you're looking through some kind of tube. And it doesn't look like a giant mailbox on your gun. It actually looks like something that would belong on a handgun. And so I'm stoked. This is perfect for this Smith & Wesson M&P. The Holosun EPS has all of the features that a modern red dot has, plus some. So big thing about it, EPS enclosed pistol sight. It is enclosed. The emitter is inside here. It's got a back window on it. And so nothing, no dirt, debris, water, snow, lint, nothing can get in there and block your emitter, making your reticle disappear. And so in that way, it is more reliable in more diverse conditions than an open emitter optic. Now, I don't have problems with open emitter optics. I've got a bunch of them. But there is a reason for a closed emitter. And with this enclosed emitter, you don't give up the good things about the open emitter optics. Now, the EPS does have 12 brightness settings, 8 daylight, and 4 night vision settings. It's got nice big tactile buttons to adjust those. And what I like about it, a lot of the Holosun offerings, you know, are heavily branded. You've got Holosun on the sides, things like that. This one is not. It's very understated. It's mostly just black. I got the one with the 6 MOA dot, which I did that for a reason. I've got a lot of optics with 2 MOA dots, and they're great, especially, you know, if you're trying to make more accurate hits from farther away. But a 6 MOA dot is quicker and easier for your eye to pick up. That's what I've got on my carry pistol. And I've got that one specifically for this gun because this is my bedside gun. And so if I had to grab something quickly in the middle of the night, it's probably going to be this gun. I'm going to use the light, and there's much less of a chance of the light washing out the reticle with a bigger reticle. Now, of course, you still want to keep it on a setting that works with your light, but also doesn't bloom out huge when you don't have your light on, which again, you can find that setting easier with a bigger dot because you don't need to increase your brightness to get a big enough reticle for when your light is on. A lot of benefits to the 6 MOA dot for a home defense bedside gun type of pistol, in my opinion. It's made out of 7075 T6 aluminum. It's, parallax free, all of those regular things, shake awake, 50,000 hours of battery life, all that good stuff. Industry leading low deck height. Now that is really cool because, again, like the 407K, I can co-witness my iron sights, standard height iron sights through it. In fact, this one co-witnesses even better, but still leaves me a huge amount of window without anything blocking it, so I don't have to think about my iron sights unless for some reason I ever needed to use them. Now, as I said earlier on, they released this optic with the K footprint, and then it seems to me that they found that most people with full-size guns had an RMR footprint, and so it ships with an adapter plate for an RMR footprint. So if you are putting it on a firearm that has an RMR footprint, which many of them do, many of them do, it comes with the plate for that, so you're in luck there. The funny thing about that is, I think now they assume that everyone is putting it on an RMR footprint because it came with 2 sets of screws to mount an RMR plate down and screws to mount the optic to the RMR plate, but it didn't come with the screws for a K footprint. Now that makes absolutely no sense to me. So the K footprint screws are skinnier, longer screws. That's what my 407K had. It worked perfectly on this slide. It works perfectly on my P365 slide. I had to go to the hardware store and find the right screws, and they're still not really the right screws, but they are the right thread pattern and the right length to mount this optic. Now, Holosun is sending me the correct screws because I reached out to them with an email, which I will switch them out when I get here because for a couple reasons. They're screws that are made for the optic. They have a little bit bigger of a head on them. These ones, the head was smaller than what the screws are supposed to have. And these are also hex screws, whereas the right screws are Torx, which my torque wrench, my inch-pounds torque wrench, when I tried to use the hex, insert on it, it actually started stripping one of these out. I had to be really careful. It is still on here very solid. No issues there. I hope I'll be able to get them out when the correct screws come. But I've never had that problem with a Torx bit on my torque wrench. And you want to have your stuff torqued to the correct torque. It's, do things the right way. So I will be switching the screws out with the correct ones once they come. But I did think that was funny that they ship it ready to mount on an RMR plate, on an RMR footprint, even though it was made for the K footprint, and then they don't ship screws for the K footprint. Now, as far as using this thing goes, it's awesome. I'm really happy to finally have a full-size optic on my full-size gun. It's just nice to have that bigger window. This is, a gun this size is meant to have an optic this size with a window this size. And so I'm really happy that it finally does. And what finally prompted that was building out my P365 and needing to steal the optic off of my M&P to go on the appropriate gun for that optic. That motivated me to get the appropriate optic for this gun. And so I feel like the world is in balance again as far as my pistol optics go, and that's important to me. If you haven't gotten into the world of pistol mounted red dots yet, I do really recommend it. I love them, honestly. And at this point, I feel like I shoot better with a red dot. When I first put that 407K on this gun, I wasn't sure about it. It took me a little bit of time to be able to find the dot naturally and present correctly every time. But with practice, that got easy. And now, honestly, I like to put optics on all of my pistols. And so if you are thinking about that, I do recommend getting one. I highly recommend Holosun. I've got 4 Holosun pistol mounted optics at this point. They're great. They're really robust. They're really reliable. They work really well. They've got all the features that you want. And if you're thinking that you want an enclosed emitter, I definitely recommend the Holosun EPS series. I just think that the form factor makes a lot more sense on a pistol slide than most of the other pistol mounted optics on the market. And you can argue with me down in the comments all that you want, because I know things like the Steiner MPS, the Aimpoint Acro P2, people love those optics. They're super robust, you know, pretty much bomb-proof, you know, red dots. But in my opinion, they just look freaking goofy on a pistol. And fight me if you want to. If you enjoyed this video, please let me know with a thumbs up, give me a like. Let me know down in the comments if you have experience with the EPS carry, or whatever other enclosed pistol sight, or just Holosun or any optic. Let me know what your favorite is. I would love to hear from you guys, and I answer every comment. And from Sawtooth Tactical, stay strapped or get clapped.